Welcome to Mind Community. It is your weekly series that empowers individuals to articulate their experiences in this act of storytelling, where communities celebrate their shared history and inspire future generations to continue the narrative. Perhaps we could never overemphasize the importance of community members telling their stories of their experiences. These narratives, woven from personal perspective, form the rich tapestry of our community's history and identity. By sharing in these stories, community members become the narrators and stewards of their own heritage, ensuring that challenges and triumphs of their communities are accurately told, shared with all, and preserved for posterity. Hamilton Lashley and Rodney Grant are ensuring that the accomplishments of the Pine community are well preserved. This week we will continue that focus on the arts and how the Pine was able to achieve great success in that regard. But not before the two gentlemen engage us in a discussion on transportation in the Pine in those early days. We will learn of the introduction of the minivan and the ZR van as we know them today.
Let's look at the buses. You had the red buses. But then, before there was the elite transport buses, the elite buses running to the Pine, there was the Diamond, right? And those Diamond buses, they had the ones that we used to like to catch the most at that time. There were three buses that you had that we did like bad. 704, 3004. 705, 3009. 782, 3002. That's what we used to call them as children. All right, those were the nicknames. They provided the transport for us at the time. That Trotman was the concessionaire at the time. But then when that route was taken over by the transport board bus, then there was a bus that occupied people did not like to travel on, but had to travel on. There was a bus called the Avon. This bus was a shocking out transport board bus. With the engine used to produce so much heat that even if you sitting in the middle of the bus, you could feel the heat from the engine. And one man used to drive this bus all of the time. They had one conductor, you know. But what was amazing also with the transport system was the introduction of the minibuses. And, you know, the more people talk about things changing, the more they remain the same. The same complaints that I witnessed that people are talking about now existed back then, but in a more minute form. It's nothing new, but let's talk about it. Into the Pine, you had a number of popular van drivers, and at that time I'm talking about in the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. And the usual flair and flamboyance was always attached to those minibus drivers. You had sports. You know, let me tell you something. When Sports Transit van come to the Pine after you drop off the sanitation workers, everybody at the bus stop want to get sports. Now you can only hold about what, 14 or less people, but merely the girls. Everybody waited to get both sport vans. And you know why? They had the music. The music at the time was more like country or western. Why did you run away from me? They love that music. They love getting bored them buses. And the point also is that the other minibuses had to play second role to sports. But then after they realized what was the catch, why sport people would just wait to get bored sports van, then they too started to put in the music. So then it equal out. But you know, you had drivers like Flogger, you had sports, you had Winston, you used to call him Ringnet, you had Herbie, you had Mr. Magoo. Well, I love traveling by his van. His van was a Bedford van with a set of seats this side and a set of seats this side. You will tell you when you get in the van, watch your head. But I used to like getting in his van and try to get up front with him. He said, yo man, you pick up the fare, you don't have to pay. So, I remember Rocker. Rocker was another one. He was far more flamboyant and of course a little more dangerous. He's the man that invented the milk, the cradle, and the milkshake and all kinds of things. But at time, he asked me to collect the fare for him. So I collect all of the fare. He said, I may use the conductor. So when we got there in front at the time, it was Rick's supermarket at the time. He said, I mean, give me the fare. He said, but tell me something though. The conductor is getting the driver the money. So, but I said in a funny way, so he gave me half the fare. We became good friends from that time till now. But well, the point most substantial point that I am making, that everything has a start. There's an evolution, and then we can see where it started. Then what? Then after time when the Jamaican dancehall culture came in, and the rhythm changed on the minivans in particular, it didn't now change. It changed everything. Lil Rick was the most popular Barbadian musician on the minivans at the time. I used to catch the minivans all the time. And the point my nickname at that time was Hamida, was Barefoot Hamida. You know, but I used to walk about barefoot all the time, anywhere I go. But the point is that culture, all right, also was part of the minibus system ever since. It didn't know begin, you know what I mean? The behavior wasn't as aggressive as now. You know what I mean? But there was this transport board buses and things. We parents and I saw I want to see the transport bus really when the minibus culture start evolving in Barbados. And that's what we have to acknowledge.
Quite interesting. You may wish to give further consideration to what was occurring then and compare that with what is happening today. Now on to an aspect of the Pines history that sets it apart from other communities. In fact, as it relates to the arts and culture, the Pines stands as the fine example here in Barbados, thanks to the visionary work of a number of residents, including Hamilton Lashley and Rodney Grant. Let us celebrate the creativity of the people of this community.
The Pines Creative Workshop, to which I was the first president. Rodney Grant succeeded me, and I think a young lady is now heading the workshop.
The arts and the development of Pine is rooted in the Pines Creative Workshop, which started in 1978 out of a series of workshops that they had in the community, same community center at the time. Residents wanted to do something because we were mainly, as I said, about sports. Everything was netball, football, cricket, basketball. And the residents felt that they wanted to do something different. And they brainstormed and they said, well, we can try with some theater and dance and stuff.
You should see the collective energy and effort of the people in the Pine coming to do ballroom dance. At that time, Puka Sound was also a very evident ballroom, gonna break your back, give you a heart attack. But then we learned the ballroom etiquette. We also the creative dances, art, drama. The Pines Creative Workshop of the time produced the most dramatic productions, drama programs like God's Daughter, Teacher, of Age and Innocence. That is why the young artists at the time say, me don't know how the youth get so, you know. And it create the kind of issues we brought into Barbados, right? It was very controversial. At one time, the play that we did, Teacher, was so controversial that the teachers at the time had a problem with it. The police come and look at it, you know, I wanted to stop it. But, you know, even if at the time they had tried to stop it, the message was already out. But if they had listened and watched the message that we were given at the time, because we realized that there was overcrowding in the housing areas in Barbados, which was creating and posing a serious problem. We realized that there was the invasion of the Jamaican culture throughout the time, the dab, and the attitudes of the youth of the time were changing, and we provided solutions in the play. I think um, um, one of the most historic plays that was done for CXC was by the same Finance Creative Workshop, The Wine of Astonishment.
In 1988, I had a meeting with Frank De Silva. He was the ambassador to Barbados and Trinidad. He was living in Trinidad, and he came across this group in Trinidad called Nomadic Folk Performers. And he made this link with Bernice King. She was the cultural officer at the time. They felt that this group was so similar to Pinelands that we needed to make some kind of connection. And therefore, I remember myself, Anthony Hinkson, and Ivy. We went down in October, 14th of October, I remember it clearly, because it was a storm. I remember the guys from Trinidad calling and saying, we want to come in to go a storm. We said, nah, we come in, regardless of storm or storm now. And three of us went over. I had the meeting with the Nomadic Folk Performers, and you had some big names at that meeting. You had Errol Jones at that meeting. You had Earl Lovelace, the writer, at that meeting. You had Norval Fulton, Lord Blandon. You had some Stanley Marshall, outstanding names from Trinidad. And, we met, and we, coming out in that meeting, we formulated something called the Fusion. We called it Fusion, 14th of October 1988. So, the Fusion was this linkage of grassroots theatre companies around the region. But I started with Malik and Barbados, Pinelands and Barbados. So just after the coup, I remember I had just come home from the coup. I got caught in the coup in Trinidad. We decided that we wanted to do a joint production with Pinelands and Barbados. And therefore we would do Her Love Just Says Wine of Astonishment. So the way how we did it is that Earl directed the production in Trinidad. We sent down three of our main actors to be part of the cast. So Vane Parks really went down. Pamela Trotman, she went down. Anthony Bourdieu. Those were the three main actors we had. They went down, they were part of the cast, directed by Earl Warren and everything. So it was this joint production with two companies sharing technical expertise as well as actors and whatnot. So they play open in Trinidad, and then they brought it over to Barbados.
Directed by Earl Warner, who incidentally went to school at Parkinson Secondary School. And was Darcy Boyce did the local direction here, and Anthony Hinkson did some adaptations of it for the local stage. We had trained the Pine and Malik folk performers from Trinidad at Twin at the time.
And when they brought the Barbados, we held it at Parkinson, and it was one of the most successful productions we had. We opened it up to the school children because it was part of the syllabus at the time. So remember, we brought loads of children for 4 or 5 days consecutively to just come and see the production. It had outstanding reviews. It was really an outstanding production that told the story of the struggle that the spiritual Baptists went through in Trinidad, which is very reminiscent to what they went through in Barbados and all that. So, in terms of the fact that you couldn't shout, as they call them, shouters faith, you can ring the bell, you can go on the streets and prophesize or whatever, So you had to do your practice in secret. And they went through all the struggles of having to go to court and go to Parliament to get freedom to practice the faith. So it told that story and all the other cultural nuances that were attached to that, and in the Gina and Dinah era. It came out of the post-war era, they call it the Gina and Dinah era. So it's an interesting production. Actually, I was having discussions with Malik only this year to see if we can find a way to redo it again. Because it's still a very topical issue. It's still relevant in terms of the CSEC syllabus or whatever, so yeah.
There was some objection of staging such a magnificent production in the Pine. In the Pine, we really want to do something like that in the Pine. And we went out there, Mr. Grant, and all of the production crews.
And the community officer at the time, Ralph Walker, you know, was the buddy who went to Alambe, and Alambe then was the person, he was the head of it was the NCF at the time, but the Cultural something foundation or something. And Alambe said, well, he know the right people to send up there. Because obviously, you know, the pine was a little ticklish too to do. Like, we still had the issues. So in the area theater, he sent Darcy Boyce and Anthony Hinkson. Because remember, Alambe also had the connection with Yarba Yard. A lot of these people also was connected with Yarba Yard.
And you know, because he did that, and we were able to put on the wine of the astonishment, we transformed Parkinson Secondary School into any theater in Europe or America, any top-class theater. And what pleased us most, I think that was redemption time. The students from Queen's College and Harrison College and Carver Base came into the park to watch us act out the wine of astonishment and a twinning relationship between the Pine and Trinidad, between married folk performers and also the Pioneers Creative Workshop, who at the time was under the stewardship of Mr. Rodney Grant. Now, that kind of socialization, because you wouldn't believe this, the first people, we ran this play for about 8 weeks. Whenever we did a production, we had to terminate the production because the actors, we were getting tired and all of that. But for 8 long weeks, the people of the Pine first would come and make sure that they have a seat and a place in the Parkinson Secondary School to watch all of the productions that we did, you know. And the production would begin at 7 o'clock, and you can bet your life that Parkinson School sold out at 5 o'clock. And 95% of the audience was from the Pine. Another interesting marketing strategy that we did was that of going to every single house in the Pine, every single house in St. Michael Southeast, including Fort George, including Hackett, all on foot, and sell tickets door to door, door to door. I didn't have no thoughts at all of becoming a politician. That was the same strategy that politicians use. In actual fact, and that is why you see that the Pioneers Creative Workshop is a household name throughout Barbados and certainly St. Michael Southeast. That is where the genesis of it began. The people were transformed through those productions, through having to discipline. You have to attend rehearsals, you have to remember lines, you have to remember coordinates, you got to know stage left, stage right, upstairs, downstairs. You know, we refine a lot of the youngsters up there who actually finished school at 15 and 14. It was on the block lineman, and they had a new lease on life. And I must tell you, we did a play that won the SO Drama Award, Bulldozers, written by Anthony Hinkson. In fact, Bulldozers look at the problem that the residents, this is synergy between the Pine and the Orleans, it is this kind of synergetic relationship. Now, this is a good part. When they evicted the people from Chapman Lane and the city down that area to what is now known over there in Wilde. Okay, Gabby live up there now. Gabby did not sing that song or made that song in isolation. You know. He was impacted, and his family was impacted seriously on the transition from down there in Chapman Lane, etc., to Clapham. And when we did the production Bulldozer, never forget it, Gabby knew we were doing it, but we had a surprise. We won the award too. We won it. We got $5,000, which was a lot of money at the time. And then at the end of the play, because look, Hinkson did a lot of magnificent poetry. The eviction tonight at midnight, you got to leave this place. You know, we dramatize it that way. But at the end of it, I saw big people cry in the audience because we were able to, almost everybody that was in the audience, water flows from their eyes. Right at the end, and Gabby came on and sang They tell me to forget that my grandmother was born right here. So, you know, that was touching. It was dramatic. And we knew at that time there was a place for community theater arts. There's still, outside of Laugh It Off, because Laugh It Off is comedy, you know, and laughing, but we dealt with the serious issues of the time. When we did Age of Age and Innocence, it was the same thing. In actual fact, what should happen now in the transformation to retain the history of the Pine in terms of its cultural, social, and sporting development is that Parkinson School Hall should now be turned into a cultural hall of fame.
It might be regarded as a learning hub. There's the school, the extramural department as it was known then, and the extraordinary work, rather, the teaching and learning that occurred at the Pinelands Creative Workshop when members were actively taught the importance of the art forms to the development of the people and, by extension, the community.
Parkinson School played a very pivotal role in the education and development of the Pine and the surrounding areas like St. Barnabas, Mount Friendship, you know, those, all that learning institution, which we call the University of the Pine, adjacent to it is where Dr. Bradley Knight played a very serious role that at the time was known as the extramural center. He was the principal of that time. He played a serious role in terms of the development of the Pine also through his efforts because you had Lieber over in the Ivy, and in the Pine, you had the Pinelands Development Council, whose first president was a woman named Hazel Lindo, who lived in the Pine, and actually she thinks she has a PhD in education.
Okay, so right off after 78, we needed a space to do productions, and Parkinson was the closest space, and the biggest space in the community, because obviously we couldn't do productions in the community center; it was too small, and therefore, right there and then in 78, we formed a relationship with the school. At the time, the headmaster was Dennis Reese. He was a good man. Actually, I went to school when he was also the headmaster. But Dennis had this close bond with the Pinelands community. Dennis Reese was a man that if netball playing in your friendly community, you come in there game trouble, he can cut your pooch. He ain't a school child, but he can cut your pooch, you know. He was that kind of man, and the men will respect it. You know, the man had this respect for Dennis because he had this respect for the community, and therefore we build that kind of bond and relationship. So right off, he allowed us to use the school to do our productions and stuff. You know, it's unfortunate over the years, it wasn't, you know, turned into a permanent theater space. I really believe that all schools should, you know, that communities should have access to this space. Because we have so many problems in communities across Barbados. And we have these empty spaces that sit from 3 in the evening to the next morning when school starts, but with nothing happening. And, you know, and young people don't have access. So no wonder they will end up on the street light or on the tree or on the somewhere, because we're not making these spaces accessible. We build them and people lord over them, like if the space is going to govern itself, and if it remains empty, it's going to be more useful than if it's full and put to good purpose. So we have this strange ideology that sometimes afflicts people, you know, and that beyond sensible thinking, that, you know, we got to find a way to move on and move away from if we really want to be true to development. And, you know, but luckily for us, we've always built good relationships with most of the headmasters. Oh, we had some challenging times, but with most of them, and we had some challenging times with some of the secretary treasurers, with some of the boards, but we've worked through them. You know, we've worked through them over time, and, you know, over time we've kind of made Parkinson our own space, you know, so we're thankful for that. And there's a reason why we stay there. When we first started, you know, people always felt that the Pine was this place that you can't go, got bad people and bear bad Johns. And if you go up there, people can lick you down and scratch at the car, you know, and them kind of things. So when we first started the workshop, part of our mandate was that all of our productions we were going to hold them at Parkinson School, and we did that purposely because we said, look, if we don't want to understand movie is, we're not come up there movie.
Yeah.
They can't feel that theater can only happen in Queen's Park, in Daphne Hackett, and in Frank Collymore Hall in the city. No, 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 no. Good theater can also come into spaces like this. Because it's going to be able to build up communities. We can't build up the pine in the city. We can't build up the pine in Daphne Hackett in Queen's Park. We have to build up the pine in the pine. And we have to bring people into the pine to appreciate and to understand what the pine can offer. And there's a reason why we started at Parkinson all these years. You know, it was part of our philosophy. It was ingrained in us, and we were very clear in terms of our mission and our mandate, how we had to do this thing. And therefore, that's why every production, even when we brought one of Astonishment, it was a fight. It was a fight. So if we should hold it that, some people don't feel that this Earl Warner directed production should be held at Parkinson. I remember clearly it was a fight. You know, and we stand up, we said, no, this is our commitment with Malik, and this is our thing, so it's gonna happen at Parkinson, whether we all like it or not. You know, because theater always had some upper echelon people, you know, in the early days, people felt that theater should be this very English thing. And therefore we brought this very different approach of community theater. And there's a reason also, we also always did Anthony Hickson written productions, because he spoke the language of the people in the way that he wrote. And he spoke to community and spoke to community development and community norms and whatever. So there were some very deliberate things that we did in terms of building out the workshop and building out our theater product and stuff. So one was the space, and the other one was our choice of writer. And writers are very interested in the bourgeois writing, the bourgeois style of theater. You know, we were very focused on what it is we wanted to do. We had to speak to the people because we wanted to use theater to change the pine and the perception of the pine. Therefore, we wanted a writer who could understand and write to the things that we want to. You know, so write about the challenges of the people. So when we look at High Rise, High Rise was one Anthony Hickson written production. It was about these pine houses that you had one up top, and one body living up top, and one body living at bottom, separated by a board floor. And therefore, when children are jumping up, the people down there miserable. What that can create? Chaos. Their families obviously can be in constant conflict. You know, so he wrote about High Rise. This is our High Rise. This is our concept of High Rise. God's daughter, you know, community conflict, what we call now domestic violence. So we developed most of our productions about the challenges that we face as a community. People coming from a low income area and from an area that people, you know, but staying on is that nothing good. As one politician that said, Michael, he said, nothing good come out of Nazareth, referring to us. So we, you know, sometimes when people say negative things about you, it's a good thing because it gives you the impetus to want to prove them wrong. And therefore, when people like him said that, it put the fire in us to even do greater and greater and greater things. So the more they felt they said bad things about us, it made us do even better. So their negativity made us great, you know, create great things for the Piners community in the Piners area.
You know, we are reminded that sometimes the greatest inspiration arises from adversity. Our guests, Hamilton Lashley and Rodney Grant, have shared a powerful testament to resilience and community spirit. In the face of misconceptions and negative perceptions, the good people of the Pine community didn't merely endure, they thrive. In fact, their collective determination turned challenges into opportunities, transforming skepticism into a driving force for positive change. May the story of the Pine be a beacon of hope, proving that from the seeds of misunderstanding, a beautiful garden of greatness can bloom. Join us next week at the same time as we continue to share their vibrant stories that have shaped the Pine community. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Thanks for your time.